Imagine if a Japanese samurai from the 18th century were to suddenly arrive in today's world. What would he think of our modern technology? Let's explore this story today. The tale begins in 18th century Japan, where there lived a samurai named Takeshi. He was a brave warrior, respected by many. However, one day he was imprisoned for a crime and was soon to be sentenced to death. One morning, when Takeshi opened his eyes, he was astonished to find himself not in prison but in an unfamiliar place filled with towering buildings and people dressed in strange clothes. He had somehow traveled 150 years into the future. He assumed that the jailers had transferred him to a different city. As he wandered the streets, he was met by a boy named Dora, who was standing with his girlfriend, Haruki. Takeshi approached them to ask for directions back to his village, but Dora began mocking his appearance. Haruki recorded a video, as Takeshi looked like a genuine samurai. Afterward, Takeshi entered a store and picked up an apple, telling the shopkeeper that he had no money but would pay later. The manager, frightened by this odd man, said nothing. Outside, Takeshi enjoyed eating the apple until a police officer approached him, claiming he had stolen it. When the officer insisted on his name, Takeshi knocked him out with one punch. More officers quickly pursued him. Meanwhile, Haruki filmed everything and posted it on social media. In the chaos, Takeshi collapsed outside the home of a teacher. When he regained consciousness, the teacher informed him he had been unconscious for 2 days. The police were looking for him, but the bicycle he had taken had led them to dismiss the case since stealing an apple wasn't a serious crime. Thanking the teacher, Takeshi introduced himself as a samurai. The teacher had read about him in books but thought it was a coincidence. For the first time, Takeshi was baffled to shave with a razor. He was astonished by many things in this new world but didn't realize he had traveled through time. When asked about his birthday, he said he was born in the 18th century, which made the teacher suspicious. He revealed the current date, leaving them both shocked. They were unsure of what to do next. Takeshi cleaned the entire house, and when he saw clothes washing in a machine, his eyes widened in amazement. He learned that Dora was actually the grandson of the bicycle owner. However, Dora was not pleased to have Takeshi living in his house. When Dora and Haruki met, Haruki informed him that the video of Takeshi had gone viral. Dora grew increasingly annoyed. Both knew about the samurai from the 18th century, but they had no idea that this was where the adventure began. After enjoying modern cuisine in the 21st century, Takeshi felt content. When asked about his plans, he expressed his desire to return to his original home. For now, though, Dora convinced him to become a teacher at his school. The next day, he was excited to teach young kids who were thrilled to meet a real samurai. Gradually, they taught Takeshi how to use a phone, took him to new stores, went fishing, and even played basketball. In turn, Takeshi taught them the importance of facing challenges bravely together. The children adored him, but he remained loyal to his beloved wife from the 18th century. In flashbacks, we see that a man named Toyo had humiliated Takeshi and his students. Toyo was an arrogant samurai who looked down on others. In anger, Takeshi plotted to take revenge. That night, they attacked Toyo but accidentally killed an innocent man. As a result, Takeshi was imprisoned and sentenced to death. In the present, Takeshi lied to Dora, claiming the school was closed, but Dora insisted on keeping him there. An altercation ensued, but Takeshi easily overpowered him. Meanwhile, a journalist in Tokyo had seen a viral video and recognized Takeshi. He hurried to meet him, asking around until he found his home. Mistakenly thinking a thief had broken in, he was about to attack when the journalist reminded him of their promise. Another flashback reveals that before the attack on Toyo, Takeshi had spoken with his friend Roma. Roma disagreed with the plan and left the village, saying they would meet again in the future. Roma had also traveled 6 years into the future and never returned. Eventually, he adapted to his new life as a journalist in Tokyo. He took Takeshi to see his old village, which had changed drastically. They saw statues of themselves, a reminder that they had made their mark in people's hearts 150 years ago. As they strolled by the seaside, Roma expressed his wish to return to his world. However, after so many years, he felt detached. Yet, Takeshi remained hopeful of going back. Roma revealed the details of their deaths, which he had discovered through research after living here. Takeshi was filled with regret over the innocent man's death, leading him to take his own life. Roma had died 6 years later in a village. They visited the graves and saw that it was indeed true. Takeshi then inquired about his wife. Roma revealed she passed away 8 years after him. Takeshi deeply missed her. Suddenly, they saw some thugs dragging Dora away. The goons were harassing him for money, and soon they began beating him. Takeshi and Roma intervened, confronting the gang leader. The thugs mocked Takeshi, calling him a fancy-dress competitor, but the two were more than enough for the 15 goons. With a metal pipe, Takeshi knocked them out, leaving only the gang leader, who fled in fear. On the way back to Tokyo, he embraced this new world and was happy. He called Takeshi, inviting him to join, but Takeshi chose to stay with the school children. In the 18th century, Takeshi used to make paper flowers with his wife. The pre-internet era was quite dull. Imagine not being able to watch our videos during your free time. He often felt sad remembering his wife. One day, 3 students expressed their desire to hike in the mountains. However, that day, Takeshi wanted to visit his wife's grave, so the kids went hiking alone. Dora thanked Takeshi for protecting him that night. They both visited the grave, but initially Dora wasn't convinced Takeshi was real. But after seeing him fight the thugs, he believed. Meanwhile, the kids wandered into a desolate area of the mountains, recalling Takeshi's advice to face fear together. They devised a plan, making paper flowers to leave behind as markers for their parents. Soon after, Takeshi arrived and found the flowers. Following them, he quickly located the kids and brought them back to their parents. However, the police still wanted to arrest Takeshi. Upon learning this, the children cried and stood up to the officers, insisting they couldn't take their beloved master. Takeshi managed to escape on a motorcycle, but their president was captured shortly after. Saki and her family realized they might never see Takeshi again. Dora and Haruki went to pay tribute at his statue. They were grateful for the time spent with a true samurai. One day, the bank manager called Dora, saying a letter had been left for Takeshi before his birth. In it, Takeshi expressed his gratitude, explaining he had returned to the 18th century after the accident. He included pictures of the school children, and Dora seeing the letter brought tears to Dora's eyes. In a flashback, Takeshi wrote letters to his wife and Saki, stating the letters should be opened only after 150 years. People began to think he had lost his mind from the death sentence, but he remained calm, knowing how beautiful the future would be. Ultimately, he was forced to take his life, as he wished to be remembered as a warrior rather than a criminal. Yet, Takeshi happily left the world, knowing he would be respected in people's hearts. If you could travel back in time, which famous person would you want to meet? Be sure to let me know in the comments.